So in today's live lesson, we're going to be talking about 3 different ways you can create accountability on your ukulele journey to help make 2024 the best year of your ukulele life. You know, it's funny because New Year's is a time where people oftentimes make resolutions and all that. And we've done a few videos here in that same vein. And I think resolutions are great, but the word I like to think is intentions. I like to create New Year's intentions. You know, sometimes resolutions are, I want to do this thing X number of times, or I want to, you know, they're very objective. And I think intentions are a good way to actually, you know, strive towards a different result within your journey. And we do use objectives to create those intentions for sure, but I'm a big fan of thinking of intentions. And so these 3 different things that we're going to talk about today are just ways to create more accountability in your journey so that you can reach those intentions that you're striving for. Let's go ahead and start with the first one. The first one we're going to talk about here is to set achievable milestones. And this is different for everybody. So before I even start talking about it, I want to make it really clear that this is not a one-size-fits-all. Each and every one of you are on a different journey with the ukulele. It's different from mine, it's different from your friends. Everybody's in a different journey. And so we want to make sure that we find the things that tune our journey the way we want it to be, right? So for some people, what they really want to do is they just want to become the best player they can be, right? And they might get really overwhelmed by how much content there is and everything else online, right? Well, setting achievable goals can be a really great way to monitor your progression and help strive towards that direction you're wanting to go in. So for instance, let's say that you're watching this video on Rock Class 101 like you are right now, and you want to learn to play more of that chord melody style that's taught on most of the lessons here. Well, if you haven't done much of that before, a really good goal could be, hey, I want to play my first chord melody arrangement. Now that's a big, daunting, kind of generic goal, right? Well, make it very specific and, more importantly, very achievable. Let's say instead of learning a whole song or something like that, instead let's say, hey, I want to learn my first 8 bars of a song, or my first melodic sequence. What that means is maybe it's just a little piece of one of your favorite songs, whatever it might be. But don't make the goal the whole song. Just make the goal, I'm going to play this part. Maybe it's your favorite part of a song. And what that does is it makes it easier to hit that goal, and it creates momentum as you achieve it. As you set these milestones and these goals, as you click them and check them off, it creates a momentum to your practice and to your experience on your journey. The worst thing I ever do for myself on my journey is I set really lofty goals for myself, and then it's just easier to not do any of them. So I remember a few different times for a year, I'd be like, oh, I'm going to get a brand new set all together. A set will be, you know, like an hour performance of all new music, right? I'm going to do that. That's my goal. And then when I sit down to start, I don't start with like the first song, which is what you need to do, right? I start and I'm thinking, okay, an hour. Okay, I need an hour of stuff. So I got to do at least 3 of this type of thing and 4 of that type of thing and 5 of this type of thing. And I start trying to make a list and I get overwhelmed pretty much immediately by the idea of doing this, right? As most people do, because there's so much there. And what ends up happening is the months go by and I keep thinking, oh, I'll get to that hour later, right? I'll get to that hour, that big, you know, intimidating concept. And then before you know it, it's December and I hadn't learned any new music to get into a set, and it's just depressing because now I did nothing, right? Well, if instead I tried to create really achievable goals where it was like, I'm going to create a new arrangement. That's goal 1. And then maybe it's, I'm going to write a new song, and that's goal 2. And those are big goals, right? But those goals are going to lead to me having like that hour of new music or that hour set goal. It's making sure that I can achieve them. And again, it feels so good to check off something on a list. It feels so good to accomplish something. It makes you strive to do it again. Now, that's just the example for me. For you, it could be, I want to play the ukulele a certain amount of time every week, day, month, whatever it is. Whatever you want to do. Let's say you want to practice an hour a day. Don't make your goal an hour a day. Make your goal 15 minutes a day. Now, if you're already blowing past 15, make it 30, but make it achievable. And what that does is it creates that momentum, just as I mentioned before. And it feels so much better to accomplish a goal that's smaller than it is to fail at a goal that's larger. It just is. It's just human nature. So set your goals to be lower levels that you can realistically achieve, and that helps you progress. And the accountability is there, and it feels really good to succeed at your goal. So I hope that makes some sense for setting achievable milestones. It can also look at as other things. For instance, your milestone might be, I want to play this song by the end of the year. So then it's, okay, if I want to play the song by the end of the year, maybe I'm going to play the first measure this week, and then I'll do the next measure next week, and so on and so forth. And if there's 50 measures in the song, well, you're going to get that. And that's very achievable, that one measure a week, right? And you might find that 3 weeks in, you're 40 measures deep because you've been doing 2 a day instead, or 2 a week. And it's cool to feel that level of progression because it's achievable, and that allows you to set higher standards as you go through. So that's my first recommendation, to set achievable milestones. Now, the second way to create accountability here, you'll notice that these all tie together, is to create a routine. Because when you are trying to set milestones for yourself and you're trying to set these goals to create accountability and like what you want to strive for, you need to have a plan of action to actually do that thing. And this is where a lot of people go wrong, is they set their goals, but then they don't give any facility for these goals to be achieved. They just kind of think, oh, I'll do it eventually. A routine is the best way to make sure that you get the time that you're wanting to put into it, which gives you the outcomes that you're hoping to get, right? Now, routines are funny. I think there's a saying about if you do something 30 days in a row, it's a habit, right? Or something like that. I remember being told that when I was told to floss more as a kid because I wasn't flossing enough, right? And it is funny though, because I remember as a kid, a young adult, not flossing enough. I remember flossing felt like the biggest pain in the butt. I promise there's somewhere I'm going with this that relates to ukulele. But I remember flossing it was so annoying to me. It was such I don't know, there's something about it. I was like, all right, I'll do it. And I remember somebody saying, do it every day for 30 days and you won't think about it anymore. And, there's truth to that. I would make an effort to floss, and I kept making the effort. And one day I realized I don't have to make the effort anymore. I just do it. It's a part of the routine. I brush my teeth, I floss my teeth, and that's it. And it's amazing how much a routine can help create consistency for whatever it is you're striving for, especially when you're doing something like learning a musical instrument. With the ukulele, for instance, if I don't play this thing every day, my skills degrade pretty fast. And I get to do this for a living. For me, my routine with my ukulele is keeping a consistent schedule of private students. That's a lot of my sort of practice time. But really what it is it's my routine to continue to play. Because without that consistency, I struggle. So the way that you can make a good routine is to find a way to create consistency within your practice. And when I say that, I mean consistently touch the ukulele. I've had a lot of students over the years with wildly different types of lives. Sometimes people are too busy and they feel like they can't fit the ukulele in their life. And then other times people actually struggle for the opposite reason. There's almost too much free time that the ukulele never finds its way in there, if that makes sense. They end up prioritizing other things. So the first thing you need to do is think about what type of person are you? What helps you consistently practice and be working towards a goal? For me, it's making sure that the time is represented in the same way each day. So a lot of my students are this way too. And what I recommend is if you get up in the morning and you have a morning coffee, for instance, maybe you have to pick up and play your ukulele for 5 minutes before you're allowed to have your coffee. It's amazing how simple that sounds, right? Just pick it up for 5 minutes. It almost sounds like, 5 minutes, what am I going to learn in there? It's not going to do anything. Well, you're going to create that consistency of picking up the ukulele, and that can help with your practice sessions to make them more easy to do consistently. Just like flossing my teeth is no longer something I think about. If you put the ukulele as a role within your schedule that you have to do it before something else, it's just going to start happening. Now, 5 minutes of practice isn't quite enough to, achieve all your goals for most people, but it's a good place to start. If you're already there, find a routine within your practice that can help you create these goals or find these goals rather, right? So what I mean by that is if you already have your time carved out for your practice, now what you can do is create a beginning, a middle, and an end to your practice routine. We've talked actually how to create a practice routine before here on Rock Class and live lessons. Those can be good resources to watch. If you're watching this as a recording, I think we'll link them down below. But doing something like that can really help just to create that same routine, that sameness. Humans are they excel when they have habitual things and they develop things in consistent ways. So to be able to hit those achievable milestones that we were setting in our first goal, you want to have a consistent routine to get you there. For me, I like to create a positive practice sandwich, which sounds a little funny, but what that means is I usually like to kick off my practice warming up with something I just love to play because I love to play it. And then I do the hard stuff with the practice. Maybe it's something I don't want to work on as much that I know I need to, or something that's been very difficult and frustrating, whatever it might be. And then when I'm closing out my practice session, I do whatever I want that's fun. I do something that just I'm drawn to on the ukulele. Sometimes that's the hard thing because I'm starting to unlock it. That's great. Other times it's something completely irrelevant to everything else I was doing, and that's great too. Works for me. So find what works for you for that routine. And so that's step 2. So step 1 was to create these achievable milestones, set goals that you can measure, achieve, and quickly move on from, right? And then the second is to create a routine to help you get to these milestones. And the third is my favorite, and the one that I think is most important to talk about today, and that is to really tie these two things together, and that's start to keep a practice journal. So if you already do this, awesome. I'm going to tell you the way I do it and how I like to suggest it for students, but ultimately it doesn't matter how you do it as long as you're documenting. We're going to talk a lot about a lot of different ways you can create a practice journal, and a lot of them involve journals or videos or whatever else. We'll get there. But what a practice journal does is it helps create a documentation of what it is. It's a record of what you've been doing. And it's a way to monitor your routine, see what's working, and to literally be able to check off those achievable goals that you're setting out on. So I'm going to show you an example of a practice journal real quick. So I love putting pen to paper. I always have a journal. I use one of these every quarter, basically. I use them for the ukulele and just for life in general. I love journaling. I think it's a great thing. People should do more. I got all sorts of these types of things floating around the house, right? And now I'm not a good journaler. I'm not like, using rulers and like making them all pretty. No. I'm just trying to document stuff. And so here's an example of a practice journal and how it looks when I'm using it. So this is a practice journal example from just after Christmas to kind of show you guys what I like to do. Now, this might not be perfectly in focus, and that's okay. I'll get it there and kind of talk it through. But what this is I write the date, and then I write how much time I practice. So what I do first is I write the date, and then I leave this space here for the time that I'm practicing. You can kind of do it however you want, but the date and the time, really important just to remember what day you were practicing and then how much time on that day you spent. And then I'll list all the different things I worked on. Now, when I list these, I don't necessarily list everything I play in the session. I more just list the things that are things I'm striving for, things I'm working towards, right? And then I use a check plus minus system personally to then document how I felt while working on that thing. So for this first thing, the first part says Stretch Tone and Remembered. It's an original song I wrote. I'm getting ready to play an ukulele festival in Indianapolis in a week and a half here. And so I'm working on this one section of an original song called Remembered. It's kind of hard. I'll show you what it looks like. It looks like this. It goes... big stretch. It's all about tone at that section. It's hard to get a good tone. So what I work on is I sit and I just try to make sure I pay extra close attention to that remembered tone. And so I did that and I felt pretty good about it. It was great. So I put a plus because I got a good tone. Moved on to the next thing, which says memorizing pub chords. Well, in this case, I'm working on a song. It's called I Was in a Pub. I'm playing along with a friend of mine at a festival, and I'm trying to remember the chord progression to make sure, I can play it while we're performing it. And that one got a check, and I think it got a check because I was doing it. I didn't feel as good as I did with the remember chords, but it was fine. It was like, okay, I'm doing okay. And then I had another thing listed here, C to G change, D to G change, excuse me. And what that is actually, I was playing a song where I got to go really fast between these things. I'm really excited for it. and that one got a minus. And the reason was it just didn't go as smoothly as I thought it would, right? So here's already a perfect indication of one thing felt great, another thing felt okay, another thing felt, not so good. And then I have one more note here of a full run of 2 songs, and they were both a positive, which is great. That kind of ended up creating a little bit of that practice sandwich I'm talking about, positive things with negative, right? I like ending on a good note. And then I'd write some notes underneath what I worked on. And in this case, it says first session a week, and it felt like it. And what that means is that I hadn't practiced, and it, felt good to start practicing, but I also felt, a little bit awkward with it because I hadn't played in a while. And so then I wrote down also the time that I spent practicing and the time that I was practicing. So 25 minutes at 2 p.m. This is how I like to practice journal. It kind of sounds like a lot, but it's also very little, right? All that I'm doing is writing the date, writing how much time I practiced, and then writing down what I worked on, how I felt about it, and then any other notes that might close it out. That works for me. That might not work for you, but there's a lot that you can take from this to find what does work for you. A lot of my students that keep practice journals do something similar to me, but some people need more like measurable goals. So they'll literally like write, what they want to do in the practice session, and then they'll cross them off as they work through it, because setting those achievable goals, even on a practice to practice session, can really feel good. And it's always cool when their practice journal is just a bunch of things crossed off all the way through. It's kind of neat, right? That works for some people. Everybody's different. But having some sort of record of your practice is so helpful. Now, if you don't like writing things, if the idea of writing things on paper is stressful for you, don't do it, right? I do highly suggest trying it, but if you don't like the idea, don't do it. Take a practice video journal, like a vlog. Now, I don't mean post it on YouTube. I mean, take a video of something you're practicing on your phone, just to document what you did there. If you're so disgusted by that thing, that's fine. Totally fine. Just leave it there. Don't delete it. Just leave it. And the reason is because one of the purposes of the journal is not just to keep you present in the moment, but also to help you reflect on what you've accomplished, where you've come from with this. Because when we're setting achievable goals and we're creating a routine to get to them, the journal helps validate these feelings, because now you will see your accomplishments. With this, there are check marks that turn into pluses. There are minuses that turn into pluses for me, and that feels good. And there are things that I couldn't even think about approaching in earlier journal entries that I'm doing in later ones because of the consistency I'm creating within this routine, setting these goals. The journal ties it all together. A video journal does a great job of that too. If you take a video once a week of you practicing something, if you watch that video back right away, you're not going to be super happy about it. Sometimes you get a great take, it feels good, and you feel good about it. But most of the time you take a video, you're not going to like what it looks like. But give it a couple weeks, couple months, a year, and you watch that video back, and you're blown away at what you're doing in present day. Those videos you think are bad now, you look back at and it's like, wow, I do not remember it being that much of a struggle. And those are so important to development, because what it does is it shows the development in a way that you don't experience on your own. I like to think of progression with this kind of like a snail, which sounds kind of demoralizing, but bear with me. If you're outside on a sidewalk and you see a snail crawling along, and you watch it, it feels like it's just not moving. It's just there. Where's it going, right? That's what it feels like to practice. You're in the moment. Progression is very slow. It feels like you're not making any progress at all. But if you took a picture of where that snail is, then you went home or whatever, and you came back 4 hours later, it's like, oh my God, the snail's all the way over there. Like, it went so far. It felt like it wasn't moving at all, and it's all the way up there. Well, that's what progress is like when you're practicing. In the moment, it feels defeatist. It feels like you're not moving, but man, you document it and you watch it a week later, 2 weeks later, a month later, 6 months, a year later, you really get to see how much progress you make, even if you don't feel like it in the moment. And that's why the journal, whether it be writing in a journal like what I like to do and encourage my students to do, or just taking videos or some other documentation, that's what can really help with you with your journey. And that ties up our 3 different pieces here. We've got setting achievable milestones, right? So set your goals to be palatable, set them realistically. It's much better to cross off lots of goals that are simple to do than it is to leave some big goals unattended, right? The second thing there is to create a routine, find consistency with your playing. And with that, it could be play for less time than you originally envisioned. Play 5 minutes a day before you do something like get your coffee. It's amazing how much that can help just to create that routine and consistency with your playing. And then the third thing is keep a practice journal, whether it's a physical journal like I've got here, or maybe you're working on something that's a video or an app on your phone. As long as you're able to document your practice, you are going to see your growth in ways that you wouldn't otherwise. So those are my 3 ways to keep accountability in 2024 to help make it your best year yet on your ukulele journey. I'm going to answer any questions that there might be in chat. So if you're watching this live, please leave them. I make sure that I say hi and everything. So start leaving your comments. There are also forum posts. So if you're watching this as a recording, we do a forum post on Rock Class every time for these, and I answer and acknowledge all the different comments in there. And so I'm actually going to jump there first, as people might leave comments in chat. It looks like there's one post on the forum from the Bumble Bard, which is one of these. She's always participating in this, which is awesome. And she says, 2023 was a pretty amazing year overall, but 2024 is already looking pretty great. And we're less than a week in. This was posted on the 6th. For me, this year will be about facing fears and making changes that are long overdue, from everyday things to major life things to ukulele things. Strumming is one of those things. All I needed to do is find the capuchin monkeys live, find where the capuchin monkeys live, find their secret island kingdom, infiltrate it, and then teach them how to strum just like Matt did. Easy peasy. Also take the strumming courses on Rock Class 101 and Matt's Patreon. Yeah, so if you're trying to teach monkeys how to strum, the best thing that you can possibly do is not make your goal, teach monkeys learn to strum. The best thing you can do is find monkey. Step 1, right? Give monkey ukulele. Try to not die. It's just set these achievable goals as you work towards it. Obviously, we're not really making teaching monkeys how to strum, but if you are trying to learn how to strum an ukulele, if there are courses, like I have some courses available on my Patreon page, as you mentioned, there's also a course I did with Rock Class 101 on ghost note strumming. That's really awesome. But, find these smaller pieces to work on. It's so much easier to eat a meal when you take little bites at a time, right? And you're going to choke if you try to have too much all at once. And so it's really important to set those achievable goals and go through it. I see somebody in the chat saying, I like the bite-sized pieces theory, which I absolutely agree with. It's so satisfying to accomplish by crossing off those goals, by taking these nice, palatable bite-sized pieces and turning them into your bigger goals. So that is awesome. I'm looking in the chat now. See, Librarian Leslie says, greetings from Missouri. I think MO is Missouri, right? This is terrible. I should know these things. Jana says, hi, Matt. Rock Class says, I can hear and see you. Hey, Drew, I didn't know you were going to be here. Awesome. Jess says, I see and hear you. Awesome. The Library Leslie says, I think we'll see and hear you from earlier. And then the bite-sized pieces theory, which again is so awesome. The bite-sized theory stuff, it's so critical to just feel like you're developing when you're developing. I know that sounds crazy, but setting huge goals can feel so good, right? It feels so empowering to be like, I'm going to do an hour set of music, like I mentioned earlier, or whatever big goal it's going to be. And we miss all those steps that take you to there, right? And really all 3 of the things that we talked about today are ways to really, achieve your goals and create accountability while working towards them, right? Being able to set these achievable milestones are a really good way to be on the path that you're going towards, right? That you want to be going towards. And the creating a routine is what's going to consistently allow you to hit those goals, and doing a practice journal is what's going to let you document the journey and feel like you're doing it right. So it's quite a lot of fun. I'm going to see if there are any other comments here in the posts. One second. So I check it out. Yep, we got a few other people saying hi. Hi to Ron Ball, to Harold Helgeson. Hi from Utah. Mary Jane says hey, and Mary Jane said, I need to do that for Spanish Romance, stretch and tone work on the hard B section. So yeah, I think I just saw this comment late. I think she's talking about how I was working with Remembered and working on the tone, and that's something that I prioritize. She's talking about with a Spanish Romance arrangement I did on my YouTube channel. But yeah, there's some hard sections of that. I'll take a look at it as I'm answering the questions here. Ron Ball says, my first journal entry is to start journaling. That's wonderful. Excellent. That's what it's about. I love journaling. I think it's really helpful for a lot of people. It is for me. Mary Jane says, should I start working on the hard parts that are at the end of a song first and work backwards? You absolutely can. This is something that I love to do when I know something is going to be difficult for a song. There are lots of songs I work on where, there's an ending section that's super difficult, and I ultimately never get there because I keep playing the beginning part that's easy over and over, and that doesn't help me progress to actually learn the song, right? So prioritizing the hard parts and giving them the extra attention is really valuable. That's where journaling can be really helpful. You keep a journal of that hard part and how it feels and what you're doing with it, and you can see the growth as you go through it. So it feels really nice. So with the Spanish Romance stuff, talking about the big stretch on the second section, there's a few different parts of that, but yeah, very similar stuff. I'll play a little bit of it to kind of show what that is. Stretch and tone work on the hard B section. There's a few different things. Anytime you're practicing, it's okay to break things into pieces, like starting with the B section of a song for something, for instance. I'm guessing the stretch part, if I play the B section of that, and then all the way up. This is probably this part you're talking about. So playing something like this, beautiful piece of music, it's tempting to play the whole thing like I did here, but it's like, oh man, where I really struggled was there on like this part here where it was way up. So I'm going to practice the transition from that. Oh, that wasn't great. So what do I need? I need my pinky here. And then I'm going to slide the pinky down, add this here, add that here. Okay. I'm going to practice that again. And I'm going to do that again. And what I'm doing here is I'm kind of showing you how I'm practicing it, kind of making that the achievable goal in that single practice session, where it's like, I'm just going to work on that little transition. I'll document it in my practice journal, fill out how I did it. Maybe that will be part of my routine every time I practice until I get comfortable. I'll do it. And then I'll tie that into the achievable goal of getting that section comfortable, right? So anyways, it's a fun song, definitely worth revisiting. But I don't see any other comments in the chat. Let me just go ahead and open, make sure that the live chat is on. And I'm also going to check on the forums and stuff just to make sure there aren't any other comments. But we do these live lessons every second Tuesday of the month, and we'll be doing it through 2024 as well. So yeah, I hope you can attend these live as a rock class member, or if you're catching it as a recording, feel free to leave your comments in the chat below. And if you ever want your comments answered live during the video, just make sure you're posting it on the forum to see it there. But I don't see any other comments on either of these, so I will let you all go. I hope that you have a wonderful start to your 2024, and I hope that these 3 different methods to create accountability can help you on your ukulele journey. Remember, everyone's journey is different. Don't worry about what's working for someone else and to try to make it work for you. Just more think, what do you need on your journey, and do that. Everyone's different. Everybody enjoys different things with it. It's okay to enjoy what you enjoy on your ukulele journey. These are 3 things that help me. I hope they can help you a bit too, or at least help you find things that do help you. And I'll see you all next month for the next live lesson. Thank you so much. Take it easy. I'll talk to you all soon.